Welcome back to Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. It's a very cold morning. We're still sub-zero here in Wakefield. Got down to minus 3.4 in the jungle hut and minus 2 by the house. So it's been a very cold morning after what has been a very mild period. We've had one very hard frost this morning and the ground is completely solid in places. Lots of frost on the plants and on the ground, but where the shelter is, there's no frost, which is great. It just shows that different areas of the garden are more protected and sheltered than others. Now the sun's out, it's a glorious day, and there's some little jobs to be doing in the garden. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at some issue with a hedge. We're going to be looking at bamboo and how far it travels, and we're going to have a little look in the greenhouse. Behind me here I have this Phalaenopsis vivax, or I call this bamboo, wonderful yellow stems, and it's kept as a loose clump for a number of years since it's been planted here. But with the hot year last year we've had some runners, so what I'm going to do today is go round the front of the plant and just get in and dig through until I hit a root or a culm like I have here. And here, this is where we have one of the underground runners. It's not far under the ground, just a few centimetres, but this will be going out in all directions for several metres. I have in fact had a little dig closer to the house, about 4 metres away from here, and I found some runners, so they do travel a long way. So I'm going to go right round, sort of dig a little trench with this hack, get through all the underground roots and stems and sever them so that they can't carry on growing throughout the garden. And if you look there, that is one of the roots there, and you can see a fresh growing point as well. So I'll carry on and get rid of any more stems that have gone wandering. As you can see, the ground is completely solid, rock hard, because it was a deep frost this morning. And I just want to show you a few things that were left in the ground. And these are these Aloe-Stridatulas, which is a group there. There's one over there, one further back. We've got a couple over there as well. And these were just stuck in the ground where I cut them off from further up near the Jabea bed, and they've rooted over last summer and they've grown, and they're just going to carry on growing in this area. But we'll dig them up later in spring and pot them up and probably sell them or move them to somewhere else in the garden, because we're just stuck here basically because there was space. And it shows how easy it is to propagate these. Just get a nice big stem of it, stick it in the ground, any soil, and it will root away. And I'll show you somewhere else where it's rooted and it's carried on growing after I removed the plant. Now just down here under this Cerifera palm, I've got what's growing of a couple more rosettes of the Aloe-Stridatula, and this was actually come from the roots last year. So I had a clump that had one big stem that stuck in here a couple of years ago, pulled it up last spring, and from the roots this has grown. So it shows how easily it propagates itself, this plant. It can go sub-zero, no issues at all. It looks exotic, but it can take the low temperatures, which is fantastic for this garden. So I've just stepped into the very warm and steamy greenhouse. Hope you can see a little bit through the haze. and it's actually at the moment 15 degrees, which is pretty warm, higher than I expected it. But we've had a bit of sunshine and it really heats up the greenhouse, and it is kept at a minimum at the moment of 12 degrees. But we have got a few things going on in here that I want to show you. First thing is, in the propagator, everything's looking okay. Everything is a bit drawn because obviously it's not much light at this time of year, even though there is a light in here. And keeping up with watering is very hard because the heat mat's on in here, so I'm having to water every day or every other day just to keep everything from drying out. But I'm keeping it warm in there so that the tender plants in there can keep growing over winter slowly. Don't want them to grow too fast, but I don't want them to go dormant either because they're quite tender. And then out of the greenhouse, nothing else has been watered since they went in was it end of October, early November. So we've got the bananas there, we've got the brugmansias, we've got obviously lots and lots of these wonderful aeoniums that went in November. But the issue I had, which I didn't film a few months ago, we had the flooding in the greenhouse. There were several inches of water, and all my Haniba bananas, which you can see here looking very sorry for themselves, they were completely sodden, soaking in icy cold water for several days, and it's taken its toll. And I think most of these bananas probably won't make it through the winter, because even though they just have no soil on the bases of the plants, they're still damp in there because they got absolutely soaking a couple of months back, and they've never dried out, even with the heater on and the door open on the very mild days we've had, which is a shame. Everything else is ticking along nicely. Still got a few flowers on this begonia here, and I'm happy that everything else is growing, or at least been surviving. Obviously I'm not happy about the bananas that are not looking great. Do have a few in a storage place somewhere else, so hopefully we'll get one or two survive. But I think that water flooding has really taken its toll on these Haniba bananas, so we'll see in a few weeks' time if we can get them back into growth. So that's the greenhouse. It's very misty in here, or should I say condensation in here. So I'm going to get out of here now and keep the air in, keep the heat in to keep these plants growing. Now, a few years back I planted lots of very small New Zealand privet plants to form a bit of an evergreen hedge that I can manage along this border of the garden. It's grown really well, and from this year onwards I'll trim the top so it keeps the height down. But I have noticed in one small area we do have an issue, and I'm going to have a closer look at that now. So this area, it's only a small area of one big branch, is wilting, and if we take a closer look we can see some symptoms. We can see we've got sort of blackened area here. We've also got these little white growths here and further back and over there, and we've got some black growths. If you look in here, see that black bit there? So it's got some sort of fungus attack, and it's really not healthy. So what I'm going to do is go down to the bottom of this branch, which seems to be just this one branch that's affected, and cut it back really hard and dispose of this, and fingers crossed it doesn't spread and the rest of the hedge remains healthy. I'm unsure exactly what fungus has caused this, but it doesn't look good, so I'll eradicate this area. Thanks for watching this edition of Exotic Gardening UK. Join me next week where I'll be doing more things in the garden.